In this video, we'll be taking a look at 4 NHL games happening on January 14, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 8 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 4 NHL games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Seattle Kraken versus New Jersey Devils. The Seattle Kraken head into this matchup in a clear upswing, with 9 wins in their last 12 games, and that kind of stretch usually does a lot for a locker room's confidence and belief in its structure and system. They just beat the Rangers, took a loss to the Hurricanes, and have the Bruins on deck, which is a tough little run, but it also keeps them sharp against top-end opponents. On the other side, the New Jersey Devils feel much more like a team searching for answers right now. Not identity-level panic, but definitely in that frustrating patch where the effort is there and the results lag behind. They dropped one to the Jets, bounced back against the Wild, and have the Hurricanes next. Yet the bigger story is that they have lost 8 of their last 11 games, which is exactly the kind of skid that makes anyone nervous about laying a hefty price. Now, historically, the Devils have absolutely handled this matchup, with 5 straight wins over the Kraken, and being at home should still give them an edge on paper. You can easily argue that they know this opponent well, and the home crowd in the Prudential Center does tend to give New Jersey a bit of extra energy, especially early in games. However, the problem is not talent, it is how they are finishing games and what happens when they fall into offensive lulls, and those late-game stalls keep showing up often enough to be a real concern rather than a small blip. Seattle, by contrast, just looks like the side playing more confident, cleaner hockey right now. The puck movement is crisper, and the attack feels more connected shift to shift. If that offense stays hot, this matchup is very winnable for them, even in a road building that has not been kind historically. It also matters that some of Seattle's best performances this season have come away from home, which fits that familiar NHL pattern where a team on the road keeps things simple, rolls 4 lines, and leans on structure rather than trying to impress the home fans. The Kraken have had solid showings on the road in general, and that travels well in a spot like this where the opponent is leaking goals and struggling to close the door. Honestly, it feels like we are staring at 2 teams heading in opposite short-term directions, one trying to stop the bleeding and one quietly piling up wins. The Devils probably will turn things around at some point. The roster is not hopeless by any stretch, but right now they are giving up goals in bunches, which makes them tough to trust as a favorite, especially when compared to a Seattle side that is trending up and carrying better recent form at a better price. So when you put it all together, we are getting the team in better form at the more favorable number, and that combination usually holds long-term value rather than being some short-term fluke. As our first pick for this matchup, the Seattle Kraken money line is our full game side pick. The Seattle Kraken are averaging 2.77 goals per game and are cashing in on 22.4% of their power play chances, which is respectable, but not exactly a run-and-gun juggernaut that turns every game into a shootout. Defensively, they are allowing 2.82 goals per game and killing 71.4% of opposing power plays, a mix that suggests they can bend a little but still keep games from blowing open when they stay out of the box and manage the puck properly. The New Jersey Devils are putting up 2.61 goals per game while scoring on 20.2% of their own power play opportunities, which again lands in that range where the offense is capable but not consistently explosive. On the back end, they are allowing 3.11 goals per game and killing 77.1% of opponent power plays, numbers that show some defensive leakage, but not so extreme that every night turns into a 5 or 6 goal race on their own. What you often get from this type of statistical mix is a game that looks lively at times, with momentum swings and a few quality chances, but still finishes with a scoreline that stays under the more aggressive totals. Here is the thing, when both teams sit in that sub-3 goals per game scoring lane on average, and neither penalty kill is elite but both are functional enough, it naturally pushes expectations toward a moderate output rather than a fireworks show. A couple of power play goals across 60 minutes would not be surprising at all, but when you weigh the averages together, the combined scoring projection still leans toward a total that lands under the higher numbers that the market can hang in matchups involving perceived offensive upside. So while there is always volatility in hockey, especially with empty net situations late, the overall stat profile points more toward a game that grinds along, features stretches of decent defense and goaltending, and ultimately finishes below the projected number rather than soaring past it. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Philadelphia Flyers versus Buffalo Sabres. Both teams are walking into this game with a pretty even history, which makes it more interesting than it looks on the surface. They are tied 1-1 in their 2 meetings this season, with each side taking care of business at home, the Sabres winning 5-3 and the Flyers answering with a 5-2 win. Stretch that out over the last 10 head-to-head games and it is still dead even, 5-5, so neither team really has long-term dominance in this matchup. They also sit on exactly 52 points each this season, which sounds like a coin flip spot at first glance. The difference, and it is a big one, comes in how they are playing right now. Buffalo has been on a serious heater with a 13-2 record in their last 15 games, and they have tightened things up at home where they are 14-6-2, which is the kind of home form that makes you feel pretty good about backing them in their own building. On the other side, the Flyers are coming in on a 3-game losing streak, and the real red flag is their offense. They have scored just 4 total goals across those 3 games, which is not exactly a profile of a team you trust against a hot opponent. Philadelphia is 10-7-3 on the road, which is solid, so it is not like they completely fall apart away from home, but right now form matters more than the raw road record. Buffalo has won 3 of their last 4, and it is not just squeaking by either. The Sabres have scored 5 goals in 3 of those 4 games, which tells you their attack is humming and their confidence with the puck is high. Add in that the Flyers' defense has allowed 12 goals in their last 2 games, and suddenly it feels less like a pure 50-50 game between equal point totals and more like a spot where one team is trending up hard while the other is trying to stop a slide. Honestly, when a home team is this hot and the visitor is struggling to score and leaking chances, it is pretty natural to lean toward the side riding the wave, especially in front of a home crowd that has watched that strong run and expects more of the same. As our first pick for this matchup, the Buffalo Sabres money line is our full game side pick. Offensively, the Sabres are averaging 3.18 goals per game and are scoring on 18.1% of their power play opportunities, which puts them in that solid, dangerous range where they can threaten to put up 4 or 5 on any given night, especially when the man advantage is clicking even a little bit. Defensively, they are allowing 3.14 goals per game, and they are killing 85.5% of their opponent power plays, which is a strong penalty kill but still paired with a goals against number that sits right around 3 per game. On the Flyers side, the offensive profile is not far behind on paper, even if the recent games have been quiet on the scoreboard. They are averaging 2.91 goals per game and converting 15.3% of their power play chances, which is more middle of the pack but still enough to contribute their share to a higher scoring game when the flow opens up. Defensively, they are allowing 2.93 goals per game and killing 79.9% of opponent power plays. A combination that suggests they can be reasonably solid but are still vulnerable, especially against a team that has been filling the net recently like Buffalo. Here is the thing, when you put those averages together, you are basically looking at 2 teams that both score right around 3 goals per game and both allow right around 3 goals per game. That kind of statistical blend naturally leans toward totals that finish higher rather than lower, especially in a matchup where one offense is hot and the other, despite the recent dip, still carries season-long numbers that support the idea of getting back on the board. You do not need a wild, wide-open track-style game to get over a standard projected total with those combined goals for and against rates. You just need something close to their usual averages and maybe one extra special teams bounce either way. So even with the Flyers' recent scoring struggles, the full-season offensive and defensive numbers from both sides still lean toward a game where chances are created often enough and finished often enough for the total to land over the projected number rather than staying stuck in a tight, low-scoring grind. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Ottawa Senators versus New York Rangers. Wednesday's NHL slate gives us an Eastern Conference matchup between the Ottawa Senators and the New York Rangers, and it is not exactly two juggernauts colliding right now. New York did grab a 4-2 win back in December, which shows they can handle this opponent when things are going their way. But with both sides struggling in different ways, the rematch feels a lot more complicated. Ottawa finally snapped a 4-game losing streak with a 2-1 win over the Vancouver Canucks last night, and that kind of grinded-out result can feel bigger than the scoreline suggests. They head straight on the road for the second game in as many nights, which is not ideal physically, but mentally that win may feel like someone just opened a window in a stuffy room. With all the off-ice drama swirling around the team, that victory should ease some pressure and give the room a bit of that us-against-the-world energy as they try to prove that the noise does not define them. The Rangers, meanwhile, are stuck in a 4-game losing streak and have not really shown that same spark or response yet. A 10-2 loss to the Boston Bruins a few days ago is not just a bad night at the office, it is the kind of result that screams that something is off in a deeper way. On top of that, they are missing key stars Adam Fox and Igor Shesterkin due to injury, which takes a bite out of both their blue line and their confidence in net. So you have one team that just grabbed an emotional, much-needed win and another that is still searching for any kind of foothold. And in a spot like that, it makes sense to lean toward the side that at least showed some life, even if they are dealing with a back-to-back. As our first pick for this matchup, the Ottawa Senators' money line is our full-game side pick. Offensively, the Rangers are averaging 2.55 goals per game and are converting 21.7% of their power play opportunities, which is decent production, but it is not exactly overwhelming on a nightly basis. Defensively, they are allowing 2.96 goals per game and are killing 80% of their opponent power plays, so they are not locking teams down completely, but they are not collapsing every night either. On the Ottawa side, the Senators are averaging 3.11 goals per game and cashing on 22.2% of their power play chances, which shows they can generate offense, especially when they get set up with the extra skater. Defensively, they are allowing 3.31 goals per game and are killing 72.9% of their opponent power plays, a mix that clearly leaves them vulnerable at times, particularly when they take penalties and put extra stress on a penalty kill that has not been very reliable. Here is the thing, though, numbers alone do not always mean a fireworks show on the scoreboard. You have two teams that are not exactly overflowing with confidence right now, one that just scratched out a tight 2-1 win and another that is coming off a brutal 10-2 beating and a 4-game skid. In spots like that, games can tighten up, with both sides playing a bit more cautious, simplifying their approach, and trying harder to avoid the big mistake rather than pushing relentlessly for offense. The power play percentages are solid enough to create chances, but if the pace slows and both teams are more focused on structure and not giving up odd man rushes, the actual number of high danger looks can drop, and so can the final score. So even with those season-long averages, the overall context and the combination of decent special teams, current form, and potential for a more conservative style point more toward a total that stays under the projected number rather than exploding past it. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Vegas Golden Knights versus Los Angeles Kings. The Vegas Golden Knights head into Wednesday's matchup at Crypto.com Arena on a real heater, coming off wins against the Sharks and the Blues, with the Maple Leafs waiting for them next on the schedule. 4 straight victories have their confidence in a good place, and you can see it in how freely their offense is starting to flow again, especially when they get rolling in the offensive zone for extended shifts. The Los Angeles Kings are coming at this from the opposite direction, having lost 3 of their last 4, even though they did manage a win over the Oilers in that stretch. They have a date with the Ducks coming up, but their more immediate problem is that their home ice has not really felt like a fortress this season, and that is never ideal when a hot opponent comes to town. Yes, the Kings have rattled off 4 straight wins in this head-to-head series, which definitely counts for something psychologically, and it is easy to remember that kind of edge and lean their way almost out of habit. Here is the thing though, Vegas has put together a strong week with its offense really finding its stride, and that kind of rhythm can be hard to slow down, especially when the schedule hands them a rest advantage like they have here. When a team is averaging around 5 goals per game across its last 4 outings, even if that is a short sample, you usually want to be very careful about fading that kind of form, because that kind of scoring often reflects good puck movement and confidence, not just luck. Meanwhile, the Kings' home underperformance makes it tougher to trust them despite the series' dominance, and that is the contradiction you keep coming back to: strong historical edge but wobbly present form in their own building. The price being relatively cheap on both sides adds another wrinkle, since you are not exactly paying a premium either way, which makes it easier to lean toward the club that looks like it is starting to build something positive rather than the one trying to rediscover its groove. Honestly, Vegas feels like the team you would rather ride with right now, instead of stepping in front of their momentum while the Kings keep trying to figure out why their home results have lagged behind expectations. So even with those 4 straight Kings wins in the matchup, backing the Golden Knights to finally get one over Los Angeles again, and to do it for the first time since October 2024, lines up with the current trajectory more than clinging to past series trends. As our first pick for this matchup, the Vegas Golden Knights money line is our full game side pick. In the first meeting this season, the Kings took a wild 6-5 shootout at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. That was the opener for the Golden Knights and just the second game of the season for the Kings back on October 8th. Los Angeles has strung together 4 consecutive wins in the series, and it has hit at least 5 goals in each of those victories, which speaks to how comfortable that offense has felt in these specific head-to-head spots. When you zoom out, the scoring history gets even louder. There have been 45 total goals across the past 5 meetings between these teams, which works out to an average of 9 goals per game, and that is a big number for any matchup over that kind of span. That run has produced 5 straight over results on the total and 7 overs in the past 9 meetings, so the pattern is not just a one-off fluke kind of thing, it is a repeated theme whenever these two meet. Vegas also brings current form that fits neatly with a high-scoring script. The Golden Knights have won 4 straight games and are averaging 5 goals per game in that stretch, so their offense is clearly humming right now, not just in this matchup, but in general. At the same time, they have allowed 44 goals in their last 12 games, which comes out to roughly 3.7 goals against per game, so the door is not exactly getting slammed shut in their own end either. The over has gone 3-1 in their last 4 games and 9-3 across their last 12 outings since December 20th, which matches the idea that their recent contests have tilted toward more open, higher-scoring styles. Over the full season, Vegas is averaging 3.2 goals per game, good for number 10 in the league, and a major driver of that production is their power play, which is converting at 26.1%, 4th in the NHL. That kind of efficiency with the man advantage can really tilt a total, since a couple of penalties in bad spots can quickly become 2 or 3 goals instead of harmless kills. Defensively, things are more average, described as so-so, with a revolving door feel in net as different goalies like Carter Hart, Akira Schmid and Carl Lindbaum have seen time, while Adin Hill continues to deal with a lower body issue and Hart has a leg injury in that description, all of which adds to the sense of instability in the crease rather than calm control. When you put all of that together, you have a recent head-to-head history full of big numbers, a current Vegas team that is scoring freely and giving up its fair share, and special teams that push games toward higher totals rather than suppressing them. So the logical lean is toward expecting another matchup where the scoreboard stays busy and where backing a higher total makes sense given both the series trend and the present form outlined here, especially with that offensive confidence showing on the Vegas side. In short, the argument clearly points to going high on this total rather than expecting a sudden, drastic shift to a low-scoring grind based on what has been happening between these two and in recent games. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.